Alright.
Are we live?
Yeah.
We are live. Okay, sorry about technical difficulties. We went down. That's pretty much all we could say.
Yeah.
We will match up some video and some audio later, but
we'll deal
thanks
with that
for
later. Let's get back to what we were
us.
talking about.
So, long story short, Imperius Perfect here is just an inferior range tournament.
It costs 3 though. Like we already have a Wolfir Silverheart and a Consecrated Sphinx. Like we're already stacking up on late game big mana plays.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I don't want to be like Sphere of Resistancing myself because I have Imperius Perfect. I want to be.
You'd rather time block yourself potentially.
No, I mean, if my plan is to go big, I'd rather lay 5 little Fogmen in the ground. Or if I'm in a different scenario, I'd rather have a bunch of beaters. I think that there's zero chance I'm taking Imperius Perfect over Deranged Tournament out of this pack.
I mean, I think you're right, but I think that Imperius Perfect is worth talking about or worth consideration.
I mean, and we can differ there, because I don't think it is, but that is fine. I really think this boils down to, this is a great time to evaluate your deck and what you want to do with your deck. And so I think you need to make a choice between Deranged Tournament, Apocryphite, and Mortarpod. I think that Apocryphite and Mortarpod are both really safe cards to take. You know, if you're playing blue, those cards are pretty much always going to make your deck. If you're playing blue-green, you often can't deal with problems that Mortarpod can deal with, and it's a great opportunity to take that card. Otherwise, you could just take Deranged Hermit, kind of put the blinders up, and continue down this path.
This is also, however, one of the best color combinations for splashing. Because like it's so easy. You
have the card draw, the best of the card draw, and the best of the mana fixing.
Right, you have a lot of access to mana fixing, and then like impulse effects or abilities to dig.
That's why I liked Huntmaster of the Fells.
Yeah, and I mean Huntmaster is a fine card here. I mean, in general, I would rather like in this deck to be splashing for Path of Exile or Doomblade or Lightning Bolts.
You could still do that. You could be blue-green with 1 red mana symbol, 1 white mana symbol in your deck.
Oh, I mean, I've certainly gone, 5 color.
I mean, maybe if that Fettergeist had been a Kadama's Reach, this would be an easier conversation to have.
Sure.
So, ultimately, it boils down to Mortarpod and Deranged Hermit. I think purely on power level, I'm taking Deranged Hermit.
Yeah, I think I'm taking Hermit here, too. I don't think it's necessarily super close.
It depends. Like,
it's
I could look at this draft pool, and I could take Mortarpod. I could look at this draft pool, and I could take Apocryphite. Apocryphite with Wolfir Silverheart, still good.
Let's talk about our second. This is a sweet one, actually. Our second scenario for the day.
Browntown.
Yeah. Alright, so your 4 cards that you've picked so far are Chaos Orb, Mox Diamond, Grim Monolith, and Felwar Stone.
Standard.
So you are open, as they say.
Yes.
The pack you open, or get past you rather. Scrubland, Spikeshot Elder, Keldon Vandals, Steam Vents, Lingering Souls, Psionic Blast, Cursed Scroll, Palaka Worm, Verdant Catacombs, Inkwell Leviathan, or Vraska the Unseen.
Man, talk about a sweet choose-your-own-adventure.
Palaka Worm.
This is way out.
I almost kind of like taking Inkwell Leviathan here and just cross your fingers for Tinker.
If this was an 8-man draft, I could get behind that plan.
Come on, Tinker.
I don't think you're giving up anything by doing that. I think the safest card to take is Steam Vents.
Yeah.
I think that the
thematic pick would be Curse Scroll.
No. Well,
keep the brown flowing.
I don't know. Like it just doesn't vibe with big mana. Like Curse Scroll is not what I. It's like well, my hand will be empty because I have all these mana sources.
Yeah, big mana lets you peek your hand fast, so it turns on Curse Scroll quicker.
It is true. I mean, the chat is caught on to this. The Inkwell Leviathan will probably table
unless someone else has the Tinker
or the Oath.
Yeah,
Inkwell Leviathan is a very good Oath card.
It's okay.
I mean, Enlightened Tutor, maybe.
Sure.
When you need the Oath, you get the Oath. When you don't need the Oath, you get Big Inky.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I was in this draft, and this was my pack, and I took the Vraska.
That can't be right. I'm very unimpressed with Vraska. Like, 5 mana Maelstrom Pulse, is what her most common play is. That also, I guess, gains you 2 life. I've been generally unexcited with her, and when my opponents play her, I very typically just ignore it and just keep attacking them. Like, very rarely I'm like, oh, that Vraska's gonna get me.
Well, here was my feeling at the time, and I feel like I can defend this. She needed nuke lands. Yes, that would be true. Now we've got two strong fixers, especially in terms of Mox Diamond, and Felwar Stone in the cube format.
Very often
produces most of the colors.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's like, okay, well, if I have all this brown-centric material, I can take a powerful Planeswalker here. You know, the effect it's have is very strong. It's going to be a Vindicate, which is the other things I need to kind of back up here. And I'm not losing anything. And similar to taking the Inkwell Leviathan that we could table, or you could just kind of take it and go that route. There could be a lot of times where I end up playing blue and I end up playing that card, but if I take Vraska, I can find a way to play it with the cards I have access to right now, and it's going to be strong. I mean, and fast mana is obviously what makes Vraska above the curve. I mean, just casting it for 5 in a green-black creature deck isn't good. It's often too slow. You know, things aren't getting done. That makes sense. It's just not that way here, and that's what I feel like.
I'm just generally unimpressed with Vraska and Cube. Like, she just never strikes me as being like a blowout.
Dude, she always wins the Planeswalker fights.
Sure, I mean, again, it's a 5-mana Maelstrom Pulse, so how bad can it be? But at the same time, like, I don't know.
I will give you that in Cube, more often than not, she's, alright, kill that big problem. Tick, tick, kill that big problem, and then we'll go from there. So it's already like this kind of like suspend, or more like the cycle of recur suspend.
Right, where you
festering march or whatever, where it was
right. So it's like
you get him, it suspends, you get him again.
Except at any point your opponent can point like literally anything at it, and
that's it stays good because it kills the thing. Hopefully that's coming at it. You are still playing Magic.
Yeah, you
didn't close your eyes and be like, all right, count to 3 turns.
I think I'm taking Steam Vents or Inkwell Leviathan here.
That's fine.
With the artifact centric, I'm probably looking to be blue, or just taking Inkwell and looking to go big mana or Tinker. Vraska is definitely a bit of an outlier pick for me.
Like how in this pack you have a triple green fatty and a double blue fatty. I think that kind of helps you to have to make a real decision, so you don't just take. You're like, oh, I'll take one fatty now and I'll get the other fatty later, and whatever the colors are, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you kind of have
to go big brown mana.
You have to lock in a little bit more. So
I stand by the Vraska. It worked out.
I mean,
I played like
results oriented.
John Brown.
Brown Jun. Sounds exciting.
I mean, everything kind of gets reset when we lose ourselves in a computer crash. But for the audio side, hopefully there won't be much of a mix-up. Eck is a master editor, and he'll jam these two pieces together. They won't even know we crashed until just now.
So the fact we keep talking about it.
Crash will crash. Mm-hmm. And then for you on the live side, we're getting back on track here.
Yeah.
We've lost our show notes, but
no, we're talking about the league.
Oh, we are talking about the league. That is
I pulled it up. You talk about the.
That is the main topic today. Today's topic is the Cube League that we run every week down at our local game store. It kind of was an idea that felt like it started. Thankful for being here on the weekend. It was an idea that kind of started out of we cube a lot. We want to support our local game store, but we couldn't really come up with a good way to get our players to really kind of do it. It was like, we hang out there. I mean, they sell snacks, and we'll buy that kind of stuff from time to time. But we didn't really feel like we were contributing that much, other than kind of offering up an open draft environment. Anyone could walk in, and that's part of the league is anyone can still walk in and draft with us any day.
Yeah.
No charge. It's always free. It's not an exclusive club.
This information is more useful for people who have a cube and are looking for more players, are looking for ways to regulate it, are looking for ways to kind of figure out how to encourage people to go regularly, things like that.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about, card protection, loaning stuff out to people. How do you kind of put rules on it, those kind of things. And hopefully all that stuff will be covered and kind of covering the Cube League manifesto. But I think it's really important just to start out with, it was big for us to kind of include the local game store. We didn't want to be just that group of guys that shows up and plays D&D in a corner on a Friday night, or shows up in their commander circle and doesn't really let people in, and doesn't really kind of be inclusive.
Right. And I think that if you work with if your local game store, you talk to the guy who owns it, whatever, and just explain to him what you want to do or what you've got going on. For ours, it's got prize support in the league for our players.
Through the store, obviously, which everyone's winning here.
And it's all recorded. You get your one Planeswalker point for playing.
No, Tim, it's not with Dargan.
No,
not that I have anything wrong with Dargan, really. I mean, he's not the greatest Magic teacher. There's another local game store in our area where the gentleman that's kind of like forced to run it is not. I mean, he wants to be a Magic enthusiast because it's a very strong product, but he does not teach the game well. He does not have a positive attitude overall towards Magic. Not that I wouldn't work with him if that was the case. Well, but anyway. Going back to the store side, this connects to kind of the security side. It's twofold. One, since the league is run through the store, you sign up with the store, you pay with the store, and we run it through DCI Reporter every week. So, in theory, we already have your personal information. You'd like to. We know your name. It's not complete randos showing up, but you could. I mean, that's like kind of where the line is drawn. It's like we've had people walk in I've never met before. They're like, "You guys cube? Can I cube?" And we're like, "Yeah, you can cube, of course." Like, come in. Don't bother.
I think that you're going to be there. If you're going to be there every week, you're going to have the benefits of the league are it's by having it at a store, by having it at the same time every week, by having it be more of a routine. It's easier to get players. If you're interested in queuing more often, it's easier to get players to show up if you're consistent.
Yeah, and, much like a podcast that we don't flip flop around the days of the week on.
So, I mean, we're running, every Wednesday, 6 o'clock, show up and there will be cube. So that way, if you play every week, you know when to go. Even if you don't play every week, you know that, I got nothing going on. What should I do this afternoon?
I mean, there's a few things are more satisfying than when we walk in and the store owner is like, "Oh, yeah, I had a guy call, hold a spot for him. You've never met him before, but he wants to play with you guys. Like, do that." And I'm like, "Oh, that's all. It's great. That's just the way we want it."
So the nice thing about setting this up is, you don't have to have a specific cube. It's not like this only works with powered cube. This only works with big or whatever, as long as you can support presumably the number of players you would expect.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the only issue with exclusivity is how many players can you support, and that's kind of the reasons that over the winter we expanded the cube from 670 or whatever to 700 cards, because in a pinch we can get to 16 players by just cutting down the pack size slightly, and we've had a couple of 14-person weeks, one 16-person week over the winter, and it was good. I mean, we filled up 2 full draft tables. And, to finish the conversation on security, the other thing, when you're connected to the store owner, the judges, these are all people that are going to be looking out for your cards if they belong to you as one person that are out there. And, and again, as much as you kind of have mutual respect for anyone that walks up to handle your things and play with them and have that respect, you still want to have as many kind of eyes and people out there just in case. So, and again, if you don't feel comfortable with it, there are alternatives. I've definitely, I remember running an event on a Saturday. I don't remember if you were there. I ran a Saturday event once. There was like a PTQ, and we were running side events. And I actually ran a cube draft. Ran a cube draft and had them register all the cards. People I'd never met before.
Oh, register the
Yeah, they registered their pools. It was like it was SEAL or something. They played a 3-round single elimination draft. Got prizes like it was a regular draft.
Nice.
It fired the one time. That was a lot more stressful than it was worth, but it was like fun to say.
It was fun to,
we say we've done that.
So, I mean, typically the way as you can see on the screen, we wrote up a little kind of brief, and you can get this from the blog, which is ecomon.blogspot.com.
You should say it faster, because if there was one thing from my appearance on Brainstorm Brewery, it's that people complained that they could not make out what you were saying and how to spell it.
Oh.
Eck, E-C-K.
A
as in the
letter
Aramaic. Okay, A. Mon,
M-O-N.
as in mostly man. Blog spot, which you may be familiar with. .com,
Yeah.
which you are familiar with.
So this is just kind of a basic. This is how we set it up. So we were running for 12 weeks for a season. That amount is variable. Obviously, we were kind of trying to time it like, in between set releases. So like one set comes out.
Yeah, that needs better work.
Yeah.
I mean, this 2013 is a shitty year to try to like stay pace with set releases.
Right.
Because obviously, again, I've talked about this with Friday Night Magic. There's an ebb and flow of the player base that they want to play with new stuff, and you kind of get to do that with Cube more than you'd think. But it kind of waxes and wanes on the limited interest based on when set releases are, and you want a good sample size for League. You don't want League to restart every 5 weeks or something, and you don't want League to go 20 weeks or something where it's like you can't make changes, and the reason you can't make changes we'll get into later. So 12 weeks has worked for the time we've done it now. We may shorten it to 10 to try to match up with other things, or we may extend it to 16. I look at Cube League kind of similar to how you would do like fantasy football, where
you're really working around. Your mileage may vary on all of this, and you really kind of need to adjust it to your own players.
Right.
Rather than say, "All right, people, this is how life is going to be, and we're going to do this, this, and this." By adjusting things to be more flexible, you'll create a better environment for your players. So,
and in the chat we've already got a question. Do you want 2 360 card cubes, 1 720 card cube? How do you want to do it for the league? Consistency with the card pool, I think, matters a lot. And I'm not saying you can't run 2 360 card cubes. If they're duplicate cubes, I think that's absolutely perfect. And that was kind of what we were leaning towards. Like let's say this ever got big, all of a sudden we had an F&M size player pool for Cube League. Like that would be great for like the experiences, the outcomes. But we'd have to
make multiple cubes.
Yeah, we'd have to duplicate the cube. We wouldn't want to use like
that'd be expensive.
Boland's one drop cube and then our cube. But having duplicates of the cube, effectively it's like, we opened a box of Dragon's Maze of Draft, we opened another box of Dragon's Maze of Draft. It's all the same kind of card pool.
I think if you're going to have multiple cubes, they have to all be exactly the same.
And that'll tie into stuff that we'll talk down, a little bit later from here. But depending on the size, the length of your league, again, 12 worked really well for us because that's 3 months easily. This last one, we start in March, we end at the end of May. That turned into, for a prize pool, we want a certain number of like packs per head per person. So we're like, if we can get four packs per player, that's $3 we meet in the middle. It's between cost and between retail for the store. They give us a good deal, so there's 4 packs per player going to the pool. That's $12, 12 weeks.
It's $1 a week.
Effectively, you're throwing $1 a week in for the draft, which I know people that will kind of like casually tax their friends these things, where it's like for cube upkeep.
Right, like I gotta buy sleeves, guys. Yeah. Everybody ship me $5.
Exactly, like we're playing with my cube. You're buying me a sandwich.
Yeah,
that'll happen once a month or every once in a while with people I know. So
rather than do that, just like if you go through the store,
Yeah, and again, it could really be whatever you guys want to do. I've already had talks where if we want to kind of make this our fantasy football league, we really need a trophy. We really need something we can ship around.
I vote championship belt personally. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but like
I don't know.
I do. Oh,
See,
I know.
I was thinking that the trophy could like sit in the local game store of your choice if you didn't want to have to like.
But if it's a belt, the guy could wear it to events.
Most likely, he could.
How badass is that?
We're talking about getting a pretty big belt.
Sure. It's a strap. I like show up to a PTQ wearing a title belt.
No one wants to do that.
Oh, I want to do that.
No, I don't even think so. No, sober you doesn't.
I don't know. I'm pretty sober right now. I don't want to do that. It's been a long time since I played a PTQ.
In public with you if you did that.
I would totally do that. And considering I'm technically the first cube
you
champion,
are the first cube
I should
champion.
be able to.
But who doesn't want a Shiva style trophy for the league?
Me?
You don't want a Shiva style trophy for the league? You want a belt?
I would much rather have a belt.
I have bad news for you. If we took a show of hands.
Well,
at the beginning of next season, you will be destroyed.
I'm fully aware of that, but this is not a democracy.
Oh man, we could have a Shivan Dragon trophy? Oh my gosh. How did I not think about this until just now? What would our Sacco equivalent be then?
Oh,
Because like Shivan Dragon, iconic Magic card,
right.
iconic Poontang of high school. That makes sense. Sacco, something from just like a box of Fallen Empires. Did you have to like cart around everywhere?
You're not allowed to even open it.
We'd have to think about it. I mean, right now, so again, let's say you at your LGS, or we're talking about this for the next season because we'll take at least a week off here. A couple of the people that are regulars, again with school, one's out of the country, one's out of town, and we kind of want to line everyone up the starting line as much as possible. Although you can start Cube League past week 1, that's perfectly okay. We'll get to that too. But let's say next season we charge $15. Still $12 goes to the prize pool. $3 times 20 players. Bam! You got your Shivan Dragon trophy.
Sure.
And then it sits.
I think a trophy is more expensive than you think it is, especially like a custom dragon-shaped trophy.
I mean, if you've
is it going to be like this big?
I don't want to go too deep on people. If you haven't seen the league on FX, it's on Netflix for the most part. You can stop watching us because you can watch us later. You should watch that to catch up to speed. You could we could literally get a football trophy. The only thing that matters is the name placard in the middle.
Right, and
then we can adjust
glue
that.
Magic cards to it.
Yeah.
Fill it full of dice.
The whole point is you want to be able to, you're the first season champion.
Yeah.
On that placard, your little name's going to be right there.
Right.
Ekamon, first season champion. And then, you can go way deep on that, and where it's like, the league champion from the previous season gets, chair assignment first. He gets to call 0 on the rolls.
On perma 0.
Yeah, you get some kind of cute thing. And, again, you're slowly perpetuating a league.
I'll rename the trophy the Eck. That's only after the repeat, I think.
Right.
Well, you go back to backs, then you get to rename the trophy.
Put the hat on so I can finish.
I missed that show.
But you get the idea. And I can't think of a game store that would not want to be part of this. And really, what's worked out for us so well is that relationship that we've cultivated. And now it's like. You have people walk in any given day of the week, but there's not a cube draft going on. All of a sudden, they see a weird trophy in the back of the behind the counter.
It's a talking point.
Exactly.
And
what's
cube is
that?
already a great eye catcher, talking point for stores. Anyway, if you're just a random customer, who plays Magic, casually or whatever, and you walk in, and you see a bunch of dudes around drafting Moxes and casting Time Lock, and everything's all crazy like that. They're gonna be like, what in the hell is going on in this place? This is really cool. I haven't seen any of these cards in so long. This is awesome. So, it really does, have a great, excitement factor to it for customers, which is another reason I think stores are definitely interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, again, from a store owner standpoint, you've got nothing to lose. You're going to sell more product. More people are going to be interested in your game. I mean,
yeah,
that's not the point. I'm talking about people that own cubes, friends of the guys that own cubes, houses, roommates, 3-5 guys all sitting around being like, "Oh, I'm obviously the best at this, better than you are."
Yeah, prove it.
Exactly. All right. Well, we will enter 12 weeks of combat.
So speaking of proving it, so the method in which we did scorekeeping. So every month we charted slightly separately. So
within a
this is mildly confusing.
Within a it's mildly confusing when you talk about it with the verbiage you use, but when you understand it on a calendar scale, it'll make sense.
Right. So, in a 4-week period, the first 3 times that you draft, you are awarded full points, which is the same way you would do any other tournament. 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, no points for a loss. And then for the 4th week, in that period, you only get 1 point for a win, as well as 1 for a draw and 1 for a loss. So, basically, in a month, if you were to, if you go every week, that's the maximum amount of points. However, you can miss 1 week a month and still get very close to the maximum amount of points.
Yeah, the full 12-week grinder could have a 12-point edge, because you also get an additional league point for 3-0ing your draft pod.
Right.
So
the most you could accrue over someone else by going every single week is 12 points. Which isn't a ton.
Not including achievements. I mean, there's some other fringe parts to it, and again, the bonus point for winning your pod.
Yeah.
But we wanted it to be, for example, if the league's going to run, Eck or I will be there.
Right.
One of us has to be there.
Yeah.
The cube does not live somewhere else. So, for this season, I did not participate in the league because I felt like I might have had an unfair advantage, or I didn't want to come out skewed on it, that I am eventually the decider when it comes to these cube decisions. But obviously, since I finished pretty middle of the pack, I'm not worried.
You did kind of suck.
I didn't suck. I mean, I might have 0-3 2 out of the 12
You
weeks.
spent most of April in a 1-2 funk.
I don't know what the problem was.
I think I know.
Long story short, so we didn't want to give too much advantage. We didn't want someone to show up and be like, well, it's your cube. You set the rules. Why would I ever give you money to do this? Well, it's like, A, the list is out there.
B, you're not giving us money.
Right.
I think it's important to make it clear to your players that you're not running a cube league for profit.
No, we don't see a dollar. We don't see a nickel of the money that goes in the prize pool.
The store gets all the money, and then the prizes are distributed based on the winnings. And I think that's key because even the first weeks when we were introducing this, because we had been kind of casually doing this, and then we decided to introduce the league. A lot of people were like, "Whatever, why would I give you $10? Like, screw you!" And it's like, no, it's not us. It's the store, and it's for packs. Like, it's not like, for all the trouble of putting the cube together, I should get paid every week or whatever. Like, that's not the point.
And then again, I think all those kind of things, and I didn't spend 3 months throwing it so I could get in there and crush the next season. But it's really a great opportunity to track everything. And again, if you show up 3 out of 4 weeks, 9 out of 12, you're pretty much max out. I mean, the person that won, how many points did you have? Just below 70, I think?
No, I had 50.
Well, that was missing. That was the old results.
Oh, yeah, so I'm closer to 70.
Yeah, you're closer to 70. And we had already figured out, the maximum you get was 112 or something.
So you can get 90 plus, you get 102.
Oh, okay. And I don't know how we came. All right. Anyway. So, DCI scoring system works for most of this. Again, if it's a player in their 4th week, they have 1 point for match win as opposed to 3. That's really where the drop-off is. So, if you 3-0 your 4th week...
Another nice thing about... That just occurred to me. Running this at a game store as opposed to doing it at your house or whatever is access to judging, which is often typically there's at least a level 1 judge hanging out at most local game stores. If not, the guy running it is also a judge.
Yeah, having the ability to kind of settle disputes is kind of important once you put something on the line.
Because especially in Cube, you get really weird, well, this card's been errated 17 times. And
right, knowing exactly how Sylvan Library works matters. And, knowing how Chaos Orb works in the Cube matters.
So, also important, players can enter the league at any point. Obviously, after the first couple weeks, this kind of becomes a moot point because people are so far behind. But, you could come in late and still be competitive.
I mean, I was saying you could come in the 3rd, maybe the 4th week and still be in the running to win it. Obviously, you can miss the first week, no problem. You miss the 2nd week, the players that you think are going to be the ones that are going to skyrocket out in the lead, you're only 1 real week behind them.
Sure.
You have opportunities to catch up. This particular roundabout, once we got halfway through, it was there was musings of people that were interesting near the beginning, I don't really understand it, kind of feeling it out. But by halfway through, it was I'll just wait to the next one. And now we've had more inquiries where it's well, when is, how does this, so when does it restart? Because everyone obviously wants to jump out of the gate all at the same time.
Having enough of a heads up with people, this is when your league is starting, this is what's going on, I think is important.
So you can push, in those first few weeks when people show up and are what is this, what's going on? Lay it out to them, it's you can still enter now.
For the cost of a draft,
right?
You can get into this 3-month-long bonanza.
Make friends, make enemies, do the whole thing.
Also important, just because a player is not in the league does not mean they're not allowed to draft. With ours, it is completely free. If you do not want to pay, if you do not want to be in the league, you are more than welcome to still draft. You are just not eligible for any of the prize support that is afforded to the league. So, in a typical week, say we have 8 people. We'll have 4 or 5 of them will be in the league, and 2 or 3 of them will not be. For those 4 or 5 people, their match scores are recorded. They can hit achievements. They can do all of that. and for the 3 guys that aren't, they're just there to have fun, and that's what they do.
One thing that you could
it doesn't
also
affect anything by them not being in the league.
I mean, they can dream crush, which is fun.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
when the two face off and one is in the league and one isn't, there's a little bit more on the line for the guy that is in the league.
Sure.
And thankfully, we still play fairly small stakes, so there isn't a whole lot of colluding going on.
Right.
But it's important to point out, no one's ever turned away. You can always play. And one thing we didn't do this season, which I'd be more inclined to do, and you might want to do if you're trying to start the ball rolling on this process, is go ahead and post the standings of the people that show up that aren't in the league and kind of show them how competitive they can be.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually got somebody in the 3rd week who had shown up 2nd and 3rd week, 3-0'd his draft pod.
3-0, 3-0, and then was like, all right, I'm in.
All right, I guess. All right, you've sold me.
Another thing I just realized that I don't think is on here that I wanted to talk real briefly about was the format that you play. So, typically, right, the majority of the time you're going to play is going to be 8-man booster drafts, but that is not a requirement. You could do other...
I mean, the couple of times that we had 6 people for League that week, we did other things, but I think with your player base, you really shouldn't deviate from booster draft unless everyone's unanimously willing to.
Sure.
It was the one week we did a team draft, it kind of skewed things.
A little
it was we could have multiple 3-0s, kind of mess with the whole system. I wouldn't endorse that in the future. It's a fun riff. I mean, again, you're just fulfilling it for yourselves, and as long as everyone raises their hand, we did a team Roch draft one week, and
yeah, the Rochester draft was fun. But you could theoretically instead of booster draft, you could do rotisserie. If you had
that would
more
be a
time,
giant bitch. But
if you had more time, you could do it. You could do stuff like that.
Well, we'll work into the league one Saturday. We spend the whole Saturday rotisserieing with 16 people.
That would be awesome.
Ugh.
That would be so fun.
So many of the cards would be drafted.
We'd draft for 4 hours.
Okay, so we've talked about you can get points from match wins. You can get the bonus points from winning your pod. The last way you can get points, and X already mentioned this, we have cube achievements. And cube achievements were probably half the other reason that we even started this cube thing. I mean, one was obviously sitting around all the time being obviously the best. I mean, obviously we could draw from wherever.
Yeah.
The other side was, all these quirky, fun, unique circumstances have come up while playing Magic. We don't really document them, but we can always have those stories where that one time we did this thing. So we kind of sat down and brainstormed pretty quickly, actually, and we're going to need to update it for the next season. But we got a list of 40 possible things you could do in a game that would be a cube achievement. And by accomplishing a cube achievement, you would be awarded 1 league point. And you would also be given a little bit more instant gratification. You'd be given a pack.
Right.
But that felt
it'd be a pack out of the prize pool.
As many times as you just have this kind of mild endorphin rush when you hear the Xbox ding when you get an achievement.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be a little something for that.
So some of these, obviously, so this list was very rough. We came up with this over the course of a weekend. And a lot of these were kind of based off of things we had done, things we had seen, things we had talked about. The common discussion in Cube is best case scenarios, I feel. Where oh, should we add this card or not? Well, it's really awesome if you do X, Y, and Z.
Right, every time talking about Ral Zarek or whatever, it's
all flying flips.
You could do this.
Yeah.
It's not, what's it going to do?
Right. So, for example, Seismic Assault, Swans of Bernargol, right?
All you have to do is win a game when they're in the battlefield at the same time. Doesn't have to be related.
Infinite Mana with Palinchron Wake. So some of these are gameplay ones. Some of these are more, win a game with 0 cards left in your library. Some of these are easier. Some of these are harder. Win a match with all 6 multicolor cards of 1 2-color combo in your deck.
So close.
That one's difficult just because it's based on the draft, Win a game with 4 Planeswalkers in play, right? That's also very difficult. Get 6 counters on Clearwater Goblet. That's kind of a specific one.
So I felt when we made this list for our Cube League, and this is, one of the reasons why you kind of have to use the same list for people. You can't be we have too many people, let's use your cube and this cube. If you decide to do something fun like achievements like this, everyone has to be eligible all the time. And that's the other thing that kind of locks us into not changing the cube when we want to. We kind of have to wait until a season ends, and has made the last few weeks very painful.
Everyone's just chomping at the bit.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
We've had the cards sitting...
Literally, as soon as League ended on Wednesday, we just changed the cards.
Yeah, we just went back to my house and just swapped them.
But I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, people will show up at the draft, and this is kind of where that fourth week of scoring can even add a fun twist to your league. If you're the kind of guy that shows up every week, that, you know, maybe you're competitive and you want to win, but you also want to have fun. I mean, I don't know who these people are, but they exist. You could take a one-off. You know, you got your 2-1, your 2-1, your 3-0. You feel good on the first 3 weeks. That fourth week, you're coming.
Week 4 is achievement week.
Yeah.
I'm going crazy.
Like, definitely in the last week of League this season, I showed up and was like, okay, I'm drafting all multicolor. I really want to hit that one. I want to see if it's possible. Like, I got snubbed twice on the trying to get the guild leader one. Like, I got 5 out of the 6 guild cards.
I definitely. I had the win a game with Wildfire and Covetous Dragon. I had this in my deck.
And did not hit it.
It never happened, but I had like all the pieces in the deck.
Those are the most tense.
Right.
I remember Moses, he lost round 1 with he had Dustmantle Seer in his deck, and he just jammed Ulamog into his deck.
The worst...
like, yeah, it could happen.
The worst one was... so have 2 Planeswalkers ultimate their abilities at the same turn. Okay, so I had that, but my opponent conceded after the first one, and I forgot that it was an achievement briefly, so I'm like, alright, yeah, good game. Scoop, and then like 5 minutes later, I was like, hey, wait a second. Like, god damn it. So...
I mean, I think for us, it's a combination of things that are very rare, things that are very unique, things that are very fun, and some Magic history stuff. It was fun to get, like, you know, part of Cube is kind of recreating those old moments in Magic history. That's where the kind of the Kai Wildfire deck style comes from, the Necropotence interactions, the Black Summers. And they get to come up with cute names for them, and people are like, oh, hey, how do I get that, you know, Curse Scroll one? What's that one called? Like, what do I have to do? Like, am I close? Like, literally sitting over the draft table, looking at the board. Okay, come back, I'll take this card.
Yeah.
When it was all said and done, it ended up either that people were a little too competitive this season, or these were too hard, or people just didn't really notice.
I think that some of these, you know, you talk about it and you're like, oh yeah, that's not a big deal. But then actually playing, like, dude, like, cast Eldrazi on turn 3 earlier.
That's one of the hardest ones.
That's one of the hardest.
We acknowledge that's one of the hardest.
Even, like, win a match with the Cube deck that only has a 5-card sideboard. Like the 40-card deck, 5
No,
cards
I can't believe no one whored themselves out and played a 60-card deck this season. The entire season. And by, like, halfway through, I would just, like, say it out loud. It would be like, you could just make a 60-card deck. Because people have done that in the past.
Yeah.
Completely...
Win a match with a deck that contains 0 basic land. Like, that's just very difficult, like...
Those are one of those ones where you come close all the time. And that's the thing about the achievements, is you have instances where you come close a lot.
Yeah.
14 non-basics in my deck. But, you know, 2 of them are Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds,
Yeah.
and I have 2 basics in my deck.
Cast Maelstrom Wanderer, Cascading, and a Bituminous Blast of Bloodbraid Elf. Like, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
You know, stuff like that.
I mean, I felt like, you know, on the very first day of Cube League, 3 got hit, 2 in 1 game.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it's going to be an interesting season.
And then, like, after that, they really dried up.
Yeah. But, again, you know, just kind of another riff on the whole experience. I definitely don't think we're going to eliminate it. We just need to go back and retool it, and that comes from experience. And, you know, players kind of suggested their own ideas of things they thought were cool or stuff they thought was, like, really unique and you could never do again. That's kind of how the whole, like, win with Sulfuric Vortex going to kill you on the stack. Like, that set of circumstances came up.
Or the Mana Barbs triggers.
Yeah. Oh, that's a core set classic. I can definitely remember winning core set draft matches with
Mana Barbs on the stack.
Put 5, and my opponent's like, okay, good game. You're like, aha, good game indeed.
So, kind of related to the league question, we've gotten a lot of questions, you know, via Twitter and email and everything else about kind of the upkeep of a cube and more not necessarily the card choices, but things like basic land, sleeves, what do you carry it in, what else do you need, like what are the, you know, the extraneous kind of peripherals that come with it.
I mean, have we covered any? I mean, is there any questions from those in chat about League? Do you kind of get what we're getting at? I mean, again, I think fantasy football with Magic, think Magic League with Magic. I mean, a lot of these concepts are you can you can kind of figure it out. And I think that the most important takeaways are including your local game store. I mean, you can do this with your friends on a Saturday in your dorm room. Like, I've definitely gone to the dining hall and met up with 8 or 10 people on a weekly basis and drafted. And this is just kind of taking it 1 or 2 steps further. You don't have to do it at a store, but for me, it's I mean, not only is it a lot of fun to just meet new Magic players and do new stuff, but expanding the player pool and drafting with more people and doing new cool stuff and finding new ways to build decks and different ideas really helps for me in kind of like cube creation. So I love that stuff. So those are the biggest takeaways. Look to be inclusive. Look to make it really as cut and dry. People can understand how it works, get excited about it. It's not elitist. It's inclusive. It's you want to play with new players, and those are some of the greatest feelings. I mean, we already have our greatest test monkey, Moses, who had never played Magic until he started just learning after hearing us talk about it all the time and these cubes all the time, but just kind of meeting people in scenarios. I mean, we had a Ron Howard ginger-looking kid I'd never met before show up 2 weeks ago who'd never cubed with us. I mean, he played like standard in one of the stores we've seen. Come in and just draft an amazing Esper deck and smash everybody, which was a lot of fun. I lost to him in round 3. I mean, I had a herpy-derpy red-black Jocklehops deck or whatever, but that was just fun because, that's not someone you're going to see around your kitchen table most likely or in your dorm room. And, just make it easy level of entry, make it about, kind of like a combination of learning and the excitement and the fun of the interactions. It's not about blowing out people with cards they've never seen before. Like, I never feel good when I'm sitting across from somebody and they just have no idea what's going on as I'm telling them.
Like it's important to try and you want to nurture. I felt the one kid that played with us who had never played cube before, and he had like a 5-color wacky deck, and his first opponent was
he wasn't 5-color wacky. I mean, this is an excellent story. I think we've touched on this before.
His first experience is very neat.
Now is good timing because we've actually just cut a lot of these cards. But we had a kid, very excited, plays a lot of standard, goes to FNM a lot. He came to cube with us 1 week, and I think we had just made the Army Ants change, which will now forever be known as the Army Ants change.
Mm-hmm. The day we went too far.
And it's funny, as we were de-sleeving this week, and Vince got to it, and he's like, "Oh my god, you can't do this. I haven't lived the dream yet."
I know.
It kind of gets like the Army Ants of the cube kind of got passed around like a village bicycle, where every week someone got to ride it, and hopefully it was fun. But red black land destruction.
Holiday went drunk with power that one night he drafted that deck. He went insane. It was great.
Oh man. So Army Ants, if you're not familiar with the Magic card, is just a red, a black, and a 1 for a 1/1. Tap it, sacrifice a land you control, destroy target land. Obviously very integral to the land destruction strategy. And so I was just mediating 1 week. I think we had like 13, including me, so I sat out. So I was over somebody's shoulder, and he was getting all the sweet new land destruction stuff, the Sphere of Resistance, the braids, the strip mine, the Army Ants, and I was just laughing, enjoying it. And this other player who's, he knew someone who was in the league. Again, he was the guy that played standard. He drafted like Esper, Bant, or something. Kind of control-ish, kind of mid-rangey. Sits down, first round opponent, Army Ants him out. Just
in a brutal
back-to-back games, things that I would just. It's not fit for television. It was an impressive showing. But now it's gone. Anyway, so that kid had a really bad experience, which was kind of the keynote of this speech. And he would often still be in the store when we would be cubing subsequent weeks. And he would have a very negative attitude towards it. It was always like, "Oh, I hate cube. Oh, I hate cube. All this stuff happens. You don't actually play Magic. Oh, it's terrible." And it was really hard to kind of like combat that at all, or try to show him any of the other avenues you could go down or strategies to combat these things. He just wasn't interested. In the last couple of weeks, he'd come around, and his attitude had just kind of changed, and he was excited about trying it again. And sure enough, drafted with us. The Army Ants was still out there. Did not scare him away. He didn't have to play against it, but the drafts went well. He had a fun time, and he's ready to sign up for the next season of the league. And I really felt like that was a big win for us, and kind of turned the corner on that sort of set of circumstances. And
Yeah.
We'll put the carnivorous ants back where they belong.
So, like we were talking, we kind of got.
Yeah, we got there. But again, that kind of closes us out on League. I mean, I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, we cube plenty outside of League, but I think the League is a great way to kind of like set up every week where it's like, even if work, school, travel separates, it's like, it's okay. This one day, we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll play. Include all these other people. We've definitely met people through this process that we haven't, even in the same store, we've never met before.
So, cube maintenance.
Maintenance is another kind of, this is more of a quick question that has been brought up to us recently.
How many basic land do you need for a cube?
Depends on the size of your cube, Eck. If it's 360 cards and you play just with 8 people, you can probably get away with 30 basic land of each color. Probably get away with 30. At one point, I had 60 of each in a 650 card cube. Never used them all.
Yeah.
Never used them all. Go to re-sleeve the cube, you'd find some basic land that probably hadn't been touched the entire time.
Yeah, gathering dust.
Nowadays, we're down to 50 to try to size it up. We're up to 17 cards. 50 basic land of each color for 16 people works.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's gospel, but I feel strongly about that. We have a pretty robust non-basic land section, but it's not huge. I mean, if it's not Chris Pacula huge.
No. That's a big land section.
But yeah, that's something else you can think about. If you're like, oh, I don't want to have to finalize more basic land, I want to do all this stuff. It's like, hey, probably more non-basics you could run out there that might be fun in your cube.
Sleeves. Do you have a recommendation?
This is also a question that I get asked a lot. After years and years of cubing and many a split sleeve and many a really gross hand gunk stains on things and fingernail marks and all these things, what I've kind of ended on, KMC matte brand is my choice these days. I think that's my numero uno. It's the best for quality, longevity, colors, textures.
Our splits have definitely gone down since we switched to those.
Yeah, it depends a lot on how people shuffle in your pod. Eck can straight up destroy certain brands of sleeves.
Oh yeah, Ultra Pros, I will actually just chatter them.
Yeah, you'll do the full split, like the right through. Like you'll go to riffle and they'll just go right
I'll just take 2 halves of a deck and just jam them together.
Not fun.
I am also...
He didn't pay for those.
I'm also a big fan of the Perfect Fit.
Perfect Fits are pretty important.
Especially if... And this is more of a relevant thing if you're... I don't think Perfect Fits are super necessary if you're running mostly proxies or a popper cube. But if you have a lot of value in your cube and you're looking to protect it, Perfect Fits are a great way to go.
Yeah, if you're of legal drinking age, or if you're not, or whatever, if your friends like to consume liquids and also draft at the same time, and you own a card more than $10, I highly recommend Perfect Fits, because you sleeve one direction, sleeve the other direction, you are surprisingly water resistant. Mm-hmm. You're still beer sticky, but you are water resistant.
Yeah.
And that has saved people's butts in our experiences in the past. Perfect Fits for a while. I think when I first started looking to get them, they're like $6 a pack retail. Eventually, they really kind of bottomed out. I think a lot more found their way over to the States. For a long time, you could get them like $2.50 retail.
And the thing about Perfect Fits is, especially if your cube is powered, or even if your cube is not powered but has some valuable,
if you own
the first time you have a spill, the Perfect Fits more than pay for themselves.
Right.
Almost every time.
I mean, again, if you have a powered cube with actual power in it, you are already well aware of Perfect Fit sleeves.
Sure.
This PSA is not for you.
No, but I mean, it's something to consider if you're looking to build a cube. Perfect Fits are definitely a good way to go. The first time they save you, they pay for themselves. Like
even this day and age where they're kind of back up to around $5 a piece retail, which is brutal. I have a small stack of them that I was like, I don't need to worry, but no, I can't re-sleeve. I could not currently re-sleeve the whole Cube Imperfects.
Oh,
I only have like 400 now.
Oh.
We're like KMC mats. I've got like 2,000.
Right.
But that's the other thing. Perfect Fits. The current set of Perfect Fits that I've had on my cube have been there since I'm going to say late 2009.
They don't get touched. Outside of like
which
flipping,
is weird when they do get a little gross.
well, like flipping like Huntmaster of the Fells, for instance. But like the rest of the time, like your fingers don't touch the perfect fits. They don't get grody. They don't get the kind of like sticky weirdness that regular sleeves get.
So what
they
ends
last
up
a lot longer.
yeah, so what ends up happening is the re-sleeve process for your cube actually ends up taking a lot longer. What used to be 2.5 hour movie to re-sleeve your cube turns into
Lord of the Rings.
3, maybe 4 episodes of Game of Thrones to be able to get through the whole thing. More like 4 episodes.
Lord of the Rings extended cut.
It's too much.
So other than Basic Land and other than sleeves, what else would you recommend for someone who has a cube to bring with them in terms of supplies?
So in our box, which is very custom because we want to be able to have all these things, dice and counters, you gotta be able to have that stuff. I mean, I don't know how nerdy you feel like you're going to be, but even when we were just rolling in a 2-row, having that stuff was really nice and really important. Getting some nice crap-style D6s. Like, we had a lot of them at old poker sets that have slowly, over time, dissipated. No, they're just like, we'll leave them on a table. It's like, with the dice, it almost feels like a give a penny, take a penny situation.
They're like Bic lighters. Like, you look at all these dice, you're like, I've never bought any of these. But I have them all. And you're not even, like, actively stealing them.
No, but that's the thing.
You're just like, hey, can I get a dice?
So, like, for
tokens?
us, we
and then it just goes to the box.
We have a dice container in the cube box, and it's full. When we show up, it's full, and we leave, it's full. That's it. As long as it's full, don't care. Over that time, the contents of that
changed a lot.
Has changed a lot. At one point in time, I had, like, 16 Strike Zone D10s, which were great dice. If you ever see them at an event, they'll give you at least one for free. Buy something, you'll probably get more. I loved those dice. Now we're probably down to 4. But in exchange, we have some really cool D12s that I've never seen before. I mean, stuff has like come and gone through the
So you
ages.
can see in these pictures, we've got the our cube box, which is custom, and this is, again, echelon.blogspot.com. This small box right here,
that's
all dice. The thing is solid.
Yeah, there's some counters, but they usually fall to the bottom, and no one wants to dig all the way through to get them.
20-sided, 6-sided, kind of everything for tokens and all that. You can see a little bit of the side of the dice right there.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. Obviously this is like the custom job and all that, but you don't have to have something that's nice. Just even a very common Crown Royal bag full of dice.
Yeah, I like the box though because it's really easy for me to know. Full,
right?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
That's why I'm totally fine with like dice getting strewn everywhere. Because as long as you seal it all the way back up and you leave and it's full, you know you're good. Again, it's the take a penny, leave a penny jar, in my opinion.
So and
again, this is just really to me, it's a glorified 2-row. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with having a 2-row box, and for a long time, that's really what sustained the cube.
So another thing that I wanted to point out in terms of supplies, and it's something to consider. Obviously, this is kind of like next level cube preparedness. As you can see, one of the downsides of our current local gaming store is we have a kind of unfortunate table situation. As you can see, these tables were painted black, but the paint has not exactly stayed.
Oh, because they're just cheap Costco tables that are slowly chipping away.
Right. So the problem is that it chips onto the cards and sleeves, and it kind of gets gross.
Yeah.
So it's worth considering if you do not have the cleanest, nicest space to play.
Or again, should you find yourself cubing a lot in a tavern.
Right. Having a collection, a little stack of playmats is a good idea.
And it's really the first time in my life that I've ever been glad to be like, hey, Grand Prix playmat, no, I won't turn you into $3 or whatever. I will just keep you.
Right.
Because those things have ended up being very useful. And for the longest time, I have had a playmat for Magic for probably over a decade, but it was mostly used as an aggressive way to set boundaries on your space at a PTQ.
Right. It was more important that you're like, keep your elbows out of this area than like what it was actually putting on the table. I had a playmat for a long time, and then it disappeared, and I never bothered to get another one.
You had one of the cool ones, too, one of the old school felt ones.
The old school one, and then it was signed by everybody. And it had my PTQ Top 8 pins on it and stuff.
Right.
And
back when that was cool, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, mine still are there from the battle days.
Right. And then that thing just up.
You had like a Chris Rush unique lightning bolt on it.
I had Chris Rush. Richard Garfield had signed it.
It probably had Fisher on there for something.
It had
right?
Fisher.
Did you have like a Pristine Angel?
It
on
had
there?
and like some other stuff, and then a couple PTQ Type A pins, and then the Richard Garfield coffee cup, and then it vanished.
Yeah, mine is so old, it's starting to fade.
Yeah,
Like it's starting to like really soon.
the Sharpie is starting to get.
It's kind of depressing that my Viridian Shaman destroying Richard Garfield's coffee cup is slowly dying.
Yeah,
'Cause I mean,
it's fading away. It has phasing.
Fading.
No
Phasing. Phasing
It'll
will mean
come
it would
back.
come back stronger.
In 20 years, it'll just reappear.
But all those mouse pad style playmats, I would always give them away. I would always not.
I just didn't want to
keep
carry them around.
But now they're really useful. This is the trunk of my car. There's like 6 of those things. It's ready to go.
Yeah, I think those are good. In terms of a box, whatever works for you. I've seen, we obviously have a custom box.
And in the day and age of rampant theft from events, the more obscure the better, I almost feel like. I used to say, like, you just need a 2-row. Everyone just needs a 2-row.
Right.
Nowadays, not big on the 2-row.
I've seen, the Cube subreddit obviously has a lot of pictures and stuff. People who have, like, the camera boxes, where it's the cutouts of foam, where it's all custom. Those are fine. Bigger box, anything that's just going to keep together. You don't want something that's going to break apart or something that's just too unwieldy.
One problem with ours is it's not easy to navigate places with.
It's heavy. It's heavy and it's unwieldy.
Well, that's because it's a rich mahogany.
Yeah. But,
my wood
if
guy
you have something,
did not trust me when I said literally just make it out of something.
If you can have something that seals with a handle, all the better.
Yeah, I mean, I've for the style that we have for the long heavy box, CPU straps for LAN parties was something that people suggested to me for a while.
Yeah, I have
and I got real close to actually going down that road until
I might have it.
Until I saw how terrible they look.
No, they're really.
And I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you can have something,
if it fits in a backpack, that's a lot better. I mean,
camera, but like as a camera, like video camcorder, those like plastic where they have the foam in them that you can cut out or move pieces apart. Those work good.
I mean, we're right on the edge of like a tiny rolly suitcase.
Yeah, I mean, like that's excessive, but like even you just need something that is going to keep together in one piece. That you can move around with, and it's really, I mean, the box is more about you and how you want, like. As long as you're okay with it, that's the only thing that matters because you're the one who has to carry it around as the owner.
That's true about most things in life.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on those notes about upkeep, storage, that kind of thing? We re-sleeve probably 3 to 4 times a year. Although with the influx of new hands with the league, that number might have to increase, which is a bitch.
Maybe like once per league season.
That's a bitch.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. The 3 out of 4 seasons of the year re-sleeve is the current schedule we're on now.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much covers us there. I mean, we've talked. A lot has kind of transpired in the week and a half that
we picked a weird time to have a hiatus.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of Modern Masters now. We got this whole new Legend and sideboard rule. A lot of other sources have kind of talked about it. We could try to cover it for how much it impacts Cube, and to try to keep it short and sweet on this new Legend rule, it's mostly just upside. I think that, just looking at Planeswalkers, and this doesn't happen a whole lot now, but it opens up a lot of new opportunities. Being the second guy to play Jace, being the second guy to play a Johnny, being the second guy to play Chandra, that doesn't happen that often, always sucked. Eck has decided to...
Sorry.
Has always sucked. I mean, from having played J Standard, or maybe not playing J Standard, being the first guy, when the first guy in was already huge. Second guy, you're so behind just to kill it, but you have to do it. Now you've opened up all this new and different play space.
I think really obviously this isn't going to come up in a cube setting all that often, just because...
More than people think. I think that people that don't cube a lot are just like, oh, Legend rule, that doesn't affect cube players at all.
No, I'm specifically referring to the Planeswalker thing.
Oh, okay.
That's less of a big deal. The Legend rule, however, does affect cube, and I personally feel that it's a negative.
What? Why?
Because I really like the ability for clones to deal with hard to kill legends.
So do I, but I don't think that's the best scenario for the game.
I felt
shouldn't Thrun actually be hard to kill? Thrun is the best example. Geist, like in Cube, it's still a 2/2.
Yeah, sure. I mean, here's really why I dislike the rules change that they made. The way the legend rule was set up until this last change made sense to me. You've got, if you want to consider, the fantasy aspects of the game or the setting of it, you've got two people, magically battling one another in this world, and everyone's calling up their friends or whatever. You can only have one, and if two people try and call the same guy, then the space-time continuum screws up. They get time copped.
Ah, you beat me to it. I love the time cop effect.
Yeah, so that made perfect sense to me. Maybe because I've seen time cop too many times, but I totally get that. Now it's like each player is fighting each other, but they have a separate instance of the universe, and they can have the same friends, but different versions of them and whatever. It strikes me as less intuitive.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's I played a lot of Star Trek collectible card game where everyone can have a Picard. Does that make sense? That game, it was again, with the original Bridge Cool, were so strong that it was if only one person could have them,
it would be broken.
Yeah, well, it would just be very unfair, and it wouldn't be a positive gameplay experience.
Right. Well,
and the other guy holding his Picard, staring at it, wouldn't be able to play it. He wouldn't have fun.
The old rule, if there was a Bridge Crew, would either be, then no one can have a Bridge Crew. If both players have it, no one has it. Isn't that fair?
I mean, Star Trek was so complex that they eventually had a card that allowed... they had cards in that game where they could replicate every legend rule in Magic and then some. There was a card that literally said, if you have a guy and your opponent has a guy and they end up in the same spot, then they kill each other.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, yeah. I'm not saying that game should be what we're modeling after.
I'm just saying that look at the positive play experience, because that's what, as game designers, which is the people that make these decisions, that's where we're coming from. Personally, every iteration of the Legend rule makes sense to me on some level. The original inception of the Legend rule makes sense. There's only one.
You have
Highlander style.
Yeah.
There can be only one. I got here first.
Exactly.
That makes
obviously
sense to
for
me.
Gameplay, that was horrible.
Right, for gameplay, that was abysmal. It was
a Chroma Angel of Wrath being the tipping point for that. Or Lid Civvy, really.
Oh god, yeah.
Lid Civvy was the original worst.
They were in denial.
Yeah, that was deniability. But then when it was a Chroma, that was the point where they were like, this is too much.
Well, when Onslaught Block with just two sets is what we're referring to, but that was when the Pro Tour was so abysmal that a Chroma Resolve Attack You was so good. But then Astral Slide your Achroma, play my Achroma was even better.
Right.
It was okay, guys.
We've gone too far.
Just back it up.
Yeah.
Okay, it makes sense. That initial rule makes sense to me. The reinterpretation of the rule makes sense to me.
Time Cop.
The Time Cop laws. We'll call it Time Cop rule from here on out.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me.
The newest iteration of the rule also makes sense to me. Everyone has their own plane, their own ability to summon, their own magical space with which to work.
It makes less sense to me because then it's where are we fighting? If I've got my universe and you've got your universe, where is this combat taking place?
I mean, they talk about planeswalkers shifting planes all over the place. Alternate. It's kind of like the whole planar chaos type thing, where it's red Achroma, white Achroma, blue braids, black braids, and they meet on a common battleground.
Right. That, and I totally get that. But blue braids, black braids, red Achroma, white Achroma, yeah, that makes sense. But white Achroma, butting heads to me, I don't.
But again, you understand that your arguments are all flavor based. They're not gameplay based.
Right. I'm not saying that they should make all of their decisions entirely on flavor. But again, I enjoyed the drawbacks / positive interactions of Legends, specifically with clones. Phantasmal Image versus Thrun is not something I was upset about on either side.
Okay, I'm just going to get to the meat of my argument. It makes sense to me flavor-wise. It makes sense to me rules-wise. It makes sense. It all makes sense to me. What makes it an overall positive change on the creature side, I think the Planeswalker side makes sense, is that Blue is already too good in Magic. Blue is already too good in Cube. We're constantly looking for little ways to level the playing field.
You realize they're just going to make clones better.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because of this. So Blue's not going to get
They're going to make more cards in the vein of Progenitor Mimic.
Here's the thing. I think that...
As where a card like Spitting Image was kind of cool for Cube before, and Progenitor Mimic seemed kind of excessive and definitely overcosted.
I think that...
If they keep them at that casting cost, everyone stays happy. The Commander players cast them all day long. Standard players may find an area where they're good, and Cube players will laugh at them and probably not play them, but who knows?
That's really where we want to spend multiple cards per set designing for. Maybe EDH players and no one else.
Who buys the cards?
Everyone! Like, I think that all this change does... Like, here... So this is obviously not the first major... And this is not even a major rules overhaul, but like a larger scale rules overhaul that we've had even in the last number of years. And I think that every time that they do it, 2 to 3 years down the road, after their sets have been released with the rule change in mind, it generally makes sense. You can see like, oh, well, this is what they wanted to do with clone-type creatures, or this is the design space, you know... We're going to have a lot more legends. Clearly, we're going to have a lot more legends. Like if this doesn't confirm Theros as a legend block, I don't know what is.
And most importantly, legendary lands.
Right.
No more accidental wastelands.
So, 2 to 3 years down the road, you're like, okay, I get where they're going with that rule. But it has the unfortunate side effect of when they make the rule, it comes out inevitably before there are cards designed for it. It has this kind of ripple effect backwards through sets that have already been released that screw with interactions.
Yeah, but 99% of that is new play space and new fun interactions to be had. Only 1% of that is Dark Depths Thespian Stage. Only 1% of that is we're playing a Cube match where now we both have Moloku and this game is horribly... Who's going to break through?
But, can you imagine how miserable Legacy is going to be when both players have just the Mind Sculptor?
I don't think it's going to be miserable. I think it's going to be better. It's going to be a lot more interesting to watch and more interactive than it is now. In Legacy right now, first guy to Jace is so far ahead. First of all, tapping out for a 4-mana sorcery in Legacy to kill a permanent is just suicide.
Sure.
So you're already behind. Like, that isn't fun to watch, is not interactive gameplay. Now, when I have a Jace, you have a Jace Mind Sculptor, we both have them in play, how many more decisions there can be made? How many more opportunities for you to play better than your opponent are there?
Okay, but that game is also still horrible to watch.
We don't know that.
Mark my words.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Watching two people try and fight Brainstorm versus +2s back and forth is going to be like driving a nail through your deck.
It's going to be very strategic to know when to do these things. Maybe one guy's hand feels like it's very strong and set up. He's going to +2 himself, get rid of the bad stuff from the last Brainstorm. The other guy doesn't feel like he's up to snuff. He's keep brainstorming. Or now he's really afraid about the other guy winning the Jace to the moon race, and he needs to get up there. Who knows what's going to happen?
I think you're really overly optimistic about how exciting this is going to be. I think this is going to suck balls.
Right, well, when you use the word exciting, it does kind of paint me into a corner. Being positive for gameplay, opening up for a lot more interactions, Cube and not Cube, I think is really there. I think that this is overall very positive for Cube because, A, anything that this is just the amount I'd want to bring blue back. I don't want to, take away all their counterspells.
It's not bringing blue back, though.
It is.
You make Okay, so you make it so clones can't kill legends, which I guess makes blue worse. But then, in a year, we've seen now all the clones that are currently in Cube get replaced with even better clones because they print new ones that are more powerful because of this rules change. And blue is just fine. It slightly shifts, okay, now they have less, effect, they have, less legend removal and more better clones.
So it all balances out.
So blue stays exactly where it was?
If that's trust me, we are the only people having that conversation right now. The rest of the internet is who cares about this in Magic is clearly one side of the argument or the other. And very few of them are, this is the best thing for blue ever!
I'm not saying it's the best or the worst thing for blue ever. I'm just saying I don't think it matters. I think that I personally would rather have the uncommon occurrence of clone your Thrun, kill your Thrun. because especially certain decks cannot deal with certain cards in other ways.
I'm just literally having flashbacks in my head of me playing the blue deck, you resolving Thrawn, and then me cloning it, and then you rolling your eyes.
It happens.
I know. It doesn't have to.
Like,
it undermines what the card Thrawn is supposed to do.
So sweet. So then now we both have a Thrawn and we get to just jam them at each other for 20 minutes? Like, that's not fun.
In the picture in my head, yours could regenerate and mine couldn't. But
Thrawn is obviously, like, a very specific example, but, like, I don't know. I just...
Yes, there's more room to possibly make Thrawn better. Or, sorry, clones better. Thrawn's just fine. But whatever. Again, to me, this is 90+% upside. This is all good. I mean, if you're going to make this much of a tectonic shift in the game, this is all positive. Where there's more room for us to play and learn new things. And I instantly get to flashback for all those times where I would hear judge calls during Odyssey block. Judge, my opponent didn't sack his braids. Well, we sacked my braids, but we didn't... can we roll... Are we supposed to roll it back? What is it? Whose braids is that? Wait, which one are we getting the warning for? Wait a second. You both have braids in play?
I think it's going to lead also inevitably to more complicated board states and more cluttered boards.
Which is better for better players.
But also more miserable to deal with in general.
So we have more wraths. And then we get the monkeys to beat the snakes that we use to kill
we get
insects.
Gorillas,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Again, those are our feelings. I mean, apparently it affects Cube a lot more than anyone thought it did, because Phantasmal Image being able to take care of Thrawn was a big deal. Anyone being able to cast Phyrexian Metamorph to kill anything was a big deal at one point in time.
Thrawn is just the most obvious one because it's so difficult to deal with.
Right. Ulamog, probably actually number 2. Thanks to St. Travis, like a completely different card in Cube than it is in, like, Modern.
Reality.
Yeah.
Speaking of Modern, you want to talk a little bit about Modern Masters as a thing?
Yeah, so, we talked about the spoilers a little bit before. Is it good for Cube players? Does it mean you're going to have a lot more opportunities to get the cards? And now that we've seen a lot more of what's supposed to be the glue to hold it together as a set, you kind of have to ask the question, is this the closest thing we're really ever going to see to a Cube-type product?
God, I hope not.
Okay. We had Commander, the precons, we had Commander, the Arsenal, we had products that we were told to our faces are clearly for Commander, but we haven't had a product that we've been told to our faces is clearly for Cube, but this is the closest we've had. Is it the closest we'll ever get?
I think that as Cube... So, EDH existed for a long time. Oh, that's cool. Trigon Predator.
Whoa, that is a sweet picture on Trigon Predator.
It looks like
you should show the people at home what we're looking at.
It looks like a straight-up dinosaur.
I think we found the 1%er. I think that one's going to be one that we're probably going to want to replace in a Cube.
Yeah. Trigon Predator. Looks pretty...
Yeah, that guy's pretty sweet.
Surprisingly. Anyway, so... My thing about... Modern Masters is that EDH existed for a long time, without ever really getting like the official seal of approval from Wizards.
Okay,
you know what I mean. Now, obviously, it's a big deal. You see products for it, support for it, design for it, all this different stuff. Kind of more specifically around it. But it took a long time for them to get there. People have been playing effectively what modern EDH looks like, had been playing for years before it ever became an official proper thing. And I think Cube is kind of in the place where EDH used to be, where it's an established thing that people enjoy doing, but it's not necessarily the fully like, we're signing off on this, we're going to support it, we're going to like either design for it or support products for it.
Can we apply the Counter-Strike model that we can use for Commander to Cube in a way? Does that apply to your example? Well, the Counter-Strike model, so when I talk about like Commander for Magic, to me, it's the Counter-Strike of Magic. As we're
as in like it's a mod that got bought out.
Exactly. Like Commander was this thing that was created, cultivated, maintained, promoted by the community. And eventually Magic Wizards is like, these are all great ideas. We'd love to sell. Yeah, like, Stamp. We love it.
I mean, I think that, cube building and cube design is functionally obviously different than deck building, deck design. You're not building one deck, you're building 30. You're building a draft archetype, you're not building a deck. You're not building 60 cards or 100 cards, you're building 500. The decisions that go into that are much more significant. And cube is also a little bit different because there are, I would say, fewer cards that are specifically like, this is only good in cube, where there are a lot of cards that are like, this is very much an EDH staple.
Well, cube by its very nature is always just the best cards in Magic.
Right, but I'm saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, EDH, like, there are certain cards that have been printed over time that are like, this is very much for EDH, like, not even necessarily in EDH precons, but like, this is a card that is super good in multiplayer, it's super good in EDH, it's not super good elsewhere, so EDH players really want it, nobody else does. Those are places where it's great to have a specific product, like the EDH precons. There's not necessarily the same degree of that in Cube. What a Cube product in my head would look like is a starter kit box, a crap load of sleeves, a crap load of land, a bunch of dice, and then a majority of like a starter cube, or at the very least like actual set of reprints of like most of the cards that you could like pull it out of the box and play cube with, and it would kind of be like an in between Pauper and normal cube, or a like fully blown like collector's edition style thing.
So kind of the skeleton cube list idea that we have.
Sure, but like, so either like a skeleton cube list where like you could start with just this, or you could use this to augment your cube, or augment this. Or conversely, something that is like a full-blown super cube, but it's all collector's edition.
So
like gold-bordered, square-edged.
Yeah, old World's Deck style. No square edge, World's Deck.
But yeah, like World's Decks. Like, if they could do that.
They're all signed by Tom Lapille. Every 700 cards, they're all...
All the lands are signed by Chris Pacula.
Okay. All the artifacts, please. I like what you're saying. I think there are definitely, I mean, as you're describing this thing, I feel like you're just describing a Lego set.
Well, and that's really what Cube is. I mean, if you think Cube is that's actually a great way to talk about Cube. It's like the Legos of Magic. You've got this giant bucket of pieces, all the cards in the history of Magic, and you're attempting to build a castle or a spaceship.
Robot, laser, spaceship. Robot, laser, spaceship.
Sure.
Sorry, I have a 4-year-old nephew. Robot, laser, spaceship.
Okay.
Robot, laser, eventually spaceship.
Okay. So that's what you want to build out of this giant bucket. So how do you, this piece will work here, and then I'll do this, and I got the little windshield part, and then I got the antenna that I'll stick on the top, and then that'll be a laser beam later. So, like, you have all these pieces that you want to use, but getting access to those pieces is the hardest part for almost everyone.
So much like when your mom for Christmas got you the Lego, not vanilla, like build set, like the 600-piece, whatever. Like it's not
presumably built like a house or like a fire
yeah, but it was
engine.
mostly like just like stuff you'd need to lay concrete for your Lego city. Like,
yeah, you just dump it in the bucket with the rest of the stuff, kind of mix them all up, and then like.
I didn't realize you were a salad tossing Lego kind of kid.
That was gross, by the way. That also hurt a lot.
the people who are listening to this after the fact can't see your vigorous hand motions. That's what I'm hearing you're describing, and I think that's a bit of a dream, though. I mean, sure, for the 6 or 7 people in a play group that don't have the cube, they don't go home with it or whatever, who maybe want to play more. That's the number one thing on their Christmas list that they wish Wizards would print. For the guys that do have the cube, trying to find where that road intersects and making the supplementary product where it's like, well, our engineers have found the perfect size box. Our engineers have printed unique full art land for this cube experience.
More what I think what I'm thinking of is like the EDH precons, right? You want to play EDH, but you don't have a deck. Here's a deck. Take it. Play it.
Right.
You want to play cube, but you don't have one, and no one you know has one because it's way too expensive to put one together. Here, $400. Here's your cube.
$400.
Or whatever, whatever the number.
I mean,
is.
don't get me wrong. Like I think you're pretty on with this, which is what's scary, and which is one of the reasons that Wizards wouldn't go this direction. I mean, when I was talking to,
how sweet would it be though? Okay, you could have like a side event at every Grand Prix
where the winner gets
the
one.
The winner gets one.
That is sweet.
Like, how baller is that?
So, what's that product from WotC? Yeah, what does the product from WotC cost? So, I had this conversation with Mark Purvis, who's the brand manager from Wizards, and I was very harsh and direct with him when I was like, hey, things like precons blow, things like event decks kind of blow. Like, why don't you jam more rares in there, make it worth somebody's while for Friday Magic that they'd actually want to show up and play with? And the conversation kind of boiled down to, well, it's like, the price point on that product gets kind of out of hand, and then there's this kind of gray area where they're kind of putting something in the secondary market. You can't jam 2 mythics and 12 rares in an event deck, slap a $24.99 price tag on it, expect people to walk up to Friday Magic and buy it. Conversely, you can't make that same product, put a $99.99 MSRP on it, and not have that have ramifications to your brand. And that's a big problem with a Cube product.
I mean, at the same time, though, Magic, especially competitive Magic, has never been more expensive.
Yeah.
It just keeps going up and up.
More cards get printed, more people are playing, more expensive?
Like, what's a standard deck cost these days? $600?
More than that.
Like, it's insane. If you want to play Modern, forget it. It's so expensive. So
Cube one time, and then some updates from time to time.
Cube is like 2 to 3 Modern decks to put skeleton lists together, and then you never have to buy those cards again. It lasts forever. So when I say like the $400 price point, that's a lot of sticker shock. But then when you think about it, that's not even enough to build a deck in Standard, or most decks in Standard.
Right? No, don't get me wrong. I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not your target audience. Right. When you make a box set product like that, you have to understand who it's being marketed to. And look at, the holiday promo box from last winter. That was a spectacular product. For $17.99, $19.99, you got some Ravnica packs of the current set, you got a really sweet box, you got this unique promo card. You're hitting a lot of spaces there. It's big to hold in your hand. Mom and Dad can get it for little Timmy at home for Christmas.
Rapid.
At the same price point, they could get him a shitty board game at or whatever. Mm-hmm. They've spent the same amount of money, but they're getting a thing he knows he likes. That's the kind of product they're looking for. All these kind of offshoots of pre-con decks, deck builders toolkits, all these things, they kind of have a similar price point because that's what they're trying to hit. We can't do that with Cube. We can't even hope to scratch the surface with that with Cube.
I think you just have to market it differently. You're not looking to market this as like an entry level. Even like most F&M players are not looking to drop that kind of dime on a Cube. This is like, hey, have you played Cube with your friends? Do you want to build a Cube? Are you interested in that? For more serious gamers, like, here, we've done all the work for you. You can modify it any way you like. Go. Like, this is so much simpler. Rather than be
touching on the Grand Prix idea is actually really sick, and I would want to find a way to get. Break up that. Sorry, going back to the price point of $400. Break that up with your friends. It's cheaper per person if you get 8 guys to go in on that product with you.
$50, yeah.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. I mean, that's
less than an Xbox game.
That's a year of Xbox Live that you would be using to play friends with your games. Bringing it all together.
Yeah.
Although, you couldn't get Duels of the Planeswalkers, couldn't play that with your friends. There might be a conflict of interest from Wizards' perspective. But to go back to this Grand Prix idea, that's a spectacular side event prize. Like, sure, right now there's like the dinner with WotC thing they run on Sundays. Like, they have a shootout tournament where you get a plane ticket and a dinner.
Woohoo.
If you turn that into a product, and they can put whatever MSRP price tag on it they want because they probably won't really
It's irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean,
if the only way you can get it is like GP side events.
But that would I would feel that would be a little too elitist. That's almost where we want to be, but not quite. I think the butter zone is when you hit all those Sundays at Grand Prix, because now you're carting that all over the country, but also granting the ability for each premier level store to get like 1 or 2 a year. Make that well known to the players because they know how rare these things are, so they aren't, pitchforks and stakes at
I want to reserve it
at the owners of and use and motivate them to run a tournament to give it away. That way, it becomes something like the Judge promos, where Wizards isn't outright saying, "Oh, by the way, here's some $100 bills." They're saying, "Here, we've made some great promotional products. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your service.
I mean,
thank you for being interested in our product."
And like that would be a cool if it was definitely one weekend out, when the PTQ season's at a bit of a lull, you're in between set releases, whatever. Your store has a giant standard tournament or sealed deck or whatever. Winner gets a cube or whatever.
Once
or twice a year.
once the excitement and the fervor of this kind of product catches on at Grand Prix, and you could find out that your local game store could be hosting a tournament once or twice a year where that's the prize.
Super.
I mean, it's no PTQ, but you want to give something back to these local game stores. There you go. Two MSRP $400 pre-built
Champ edition
gold border skeleton cubes, complete with gold border Jace the Mind Sculptor. That would be huge. I think that that would really go a long way.
That would be cool. I'm glad I thought of it.
Man, Eck, how do you always end up with the best ideas on this show? Best you make the card idea, best cube pre-con product idea.
I'm on fire. That's why I have the seat.
Beautiful segue. If we just kept walking into it, we're getting to the end of the road of You Make the Card, and with every day, it feels more like work. We're starting to understand how the Wizards employees must feel trying to make Magic cards. It started fun. It started so big, and all the ideas were out there. And now we're locked into something that we may or may not be at all interested in.
As Tim is saying, also, best Cube League trophy, i.e. the belt.
Oh, right, sorry. I'm sticking with the Shiva Dragon trophy. I really want to make a Shiva Dragon.
I'll mount it on a belt. How about that?
I personally just picture X showing up to Cube League wearing his own belt and no one understanding what's going on.
Dude,
but him just strutting into his own theme music.
Just start cutting Ric Flair promos on random 12-year-olds there for F&M.
Yeah, that'll go over great.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, Ruben will love that.
Woo!
So we, on this show, we talked a lot about You Make the Card. Looking for an opportunity to make a cube product. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's time to let the ship sail on You Make the Card. We have a winner. Would you like to tell people about one?
Oh, Revenge of Necromancy.
What does it do, ladies and gentlemen?
It's the discard deck built around. When they discard creatures, you get zombies. When they discard lands, you get mana. When they discard other spells, you get to draw cards.
Mana?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's when they discard a land, you add black to your mana pool. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It's gonna be meh, but it's fine.
Long story short, it will not be making the cube. I can't think of an aggressively costed mana for that card that would interest us in playing it. So kudos to the You Make the Card process.
What if it came to play, you drew a card and your opponent discarded a card?
Well, it wouldn't do the last part because it would also trigger you. Idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me Okay, all right. One black.
One black. Obviously one black.
Everything you mentioned, and if you order now, we'll send you two for the price of one. No. All right, sack it and draw a card.
So it comes to play, draw a card.
No. Every card in Magic that's not like a basic
draw
land,
card, sack draw card?
It should just be sack draw card.
Okay.
Sack draw card.
Right.
That'll make everything better.
It should definitely
especially stupid enchantments.
It should definitely be when it comes into play, you draw a card and the opponent discards a card. So that way you get the first trigger right away.
Right away.
Because that's the biggest problem with cards like that, is you play them and they don't do anything.
Right.
So having to do something immediately is good.
It's okay, we're cutting them off at the pass. We're just not going to play it. That way we don't have to worry about not doing anything.
Yeah, sure.
What else is on our show notes?
Final Dragon's Maze Change List.
Really? Oh, I just told you to post that. We don't need to go over it.
Oh, alright, fine.
We're butting up on 2 hours, and I've got dinner plans. Legend Rule, how does that affect us? Check. Oh, yeah, they're okay. We might be able to cover that in time. Because that was a question that I had gotten recently. How did Cube League go? Check. Is Modern Masters the closest thing to Cube? Check. Okay, so when talking about cube construction, cube drafting, cube theory in general, a lot of people who have drafted sets before will often ask the question, why do you value lands so high when you're drafting cube?
And this question often comes up, especially if you draft the MTGO Cube online, where you will very often see dual lands going 9th to 14th.
Oh, I was gonna not say that, but okay. You mean the bad ones? You're talking like Battlefield Forge.
No, I mean sometimes, but like I've definitely tabled original school duels.
Okay, well they're okay. That's not
Anyway
doable. The point is, people that draft return now, not a gold set. M13, who open up Drowned Catacomb, might see that card make its way mostly around the table. And that's what you're used to drafting, you know, pick up your arms dealers, pick up your wind drakes or whatever, get your important cards. Mm-hmm. But in Cube, if you haven't done it that much, and maybe you're looking over somebody's shoulder, or you ask us, it kind of flip-flops, we have to go over the why. Why is it so important? Eck, I posed you the question. Why is it so important to draft lands so highly in Cube?
Well, there's a few reasons. One, most of them have to do with power level, specifically about your spells. So the power level of most spells in Cube is so high in general, and cards are so high impact, that being able to cast them reliably as early as possible is very important. That's where mana fixing lands come into play. You don't want to have games where you're stuck when you can't cast anything because you've got, you know, white, red, and mana, and you're holding a green spell. Having dual lands and having fixing really helps you get all of your spells. You be able to deploy your hand at a reasonable rate because the cards are so powerful. Related to that, when drafting, because the cards are so powerful, you'll very often get cards that will make your main deck 10th through 15th, especially. We talked about Inferno Titan as a card that has gone first and has gone 15th.
It's a sign of a good Cube draft.
And everywhere in between. So, typically, if you draft M13, let's say, the last... you're seeing a 14-card pack, so the last one, obviously, is going to be a basic land. 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th picks typically are not super powerful. Especially the last couple, 13th, 14th. Those are almost always chaff. In the very rare case, you'll have something narrow that you were looking for that tabled. But for the most part, you're really only going to get, out of a 45-card draft, you're going to maybe end up with 28 playables, 28 to 30 playables in a typical draft. In Cube, you can very easily end up, especially if you're not interested in taking lands, if you don't take them, you can very easily end up with 40 playables. And that's just too many. Or, it's not that it's too many, it's that you don't need that many.
Cut 4 or 5, play 24, 25 lands.
Yeah, right, you just play 60s. So, having said that, by taking dual lands are great because you're not giving up a pick as much as you would be in other formats that are lower power and have less depth. Because Cube packs are so deep, you can take dual lands and table a playable spell for your deck. Again, you're only looking to you only need 22, 23, 24 playables to make a Cube deck,
And you always wish you had more lands.
And you always wish you had more dual lands.
I'll take the ball back at this point, and I will say that while randomized, the Cube often will have mismatched pockets or droughts or floods of colors. And that's where having those dual lands, having those mana fixers very early in the draft process are really going to benefit you. And I have had too many drafts. And I'm one of those people that I'm gonna try to push for there to be a monocolor strategy in my Cube and have there be a 5-color strategy in the same Cube. It's really hard. We still haven't mastered it, but I like it to be there. And I've definitely had times where it's like, okay, red card, okay, red card, okay, red card, maybe not a very good one, and then complete drought.
Yeah, and it's not even like you're I'm getting cut. It's like, no, there just literally were no red cards in packs 4 through 8.
Right.
They didn't exist.
And it's like, well, now I'm looking at, a control magic. Demonic tutor. You take demonic tutor. More double color spells that are really good. And you're like, well, I have to take one of these really good cards. It's not going to be red. Where do I go from here? Am I just going to take another blue card? Am I going to try to go back with the red cards? Or will I draft the ball lightning I see next?
If you made a point to take dual lands, a lot of those questions would be, you would have a lot more guidance in your draft.
And there have definitely been scenarios where it could have been like, red card, good red card, Godless Shrine. Like,
I mean,
Gideon, Champion of Just? No. Gideon, you're too good. Champion is not good enough. Some card in the middle of the road. Sublime Archangel.
Or especially like like you were talking about, red card, red card, red card. If I'm in a spot where I'm in a monocolored, my draft is looking very like I've only got the one color. I don't really have a reason to play another color. Especially if I open a pack that doesn't have an exciting card in any color, I will look for lands, especially anything that can already produce red, like red and anything else, like even red white, red blue, red green, any color combination. I'll just take on the off chance, like, well, now I can look for. I took a Taiga. Now if I see something,
Taiga's like one of the best ones.
Well, right, but it's like I took a
Rugged Prairie.
Rugged Prairie, sure. I took a Rugged Prairie, and now I see. Oh, here's this pack. There's a decent white card in there. There's a Blade Splicer. Okay, sweet. I can take that and splash it, and it's not going to impact my deck too bad, or whatever. It gives you more sense of where your draft is going, but it also leaves you open because I just took nothing but red cards. I didn't see a good white card. Now I just won't play this Rugged Prairie, and I'll just play mono red.
And you have to remember that it's a lot harder to aggressively signal in Cube. You can't just be like, well, if my strategy is take red card, red card, red card, red card, the person to my left will definitely understand no red card.
Because sometimes you'll get packs with 6 of them, and sometimes you get packs with none. It's hard to signal.
And that could be the other thing, is due to distribution, it could be like, only red card, only red card, only red card. You think you've got it down. That could be 2 packs of no red cards, you're confused. And then the next pack can be 5 red cards, you're like, I don't know what to do. I take the lightning bolt, I'm passing the chain lightning, what's going on? You can't bank on that.
Also, like you said with signaling, certain cards, especially people evaluate them differently. Certain cards people will say, oh, this is an obvious red signal. How does everyone pass this if they don't want to play red? Whatever, they'll take it, and you're like, that wasn't even the best red card in the pack, sorry. So
I took the Sulfuric Vortex, you got the Hell Rider, whatever.
Yeah, so it's less clear. It's harder to send those messages. I think that's another good reason to stay open and take lands relatively highly.
Maybe Vin is the only person that have ever gotten to the end of a 6 or more person draft where it's like, man, I have too many lands and not enough cards. I've never realistically run into that problem before.
No. And the funnest decks are the ones with 14 non-basic lands that are all crazy 5-color.
Yeah, with my recent foray into extreme oathing, I'm definitely...
You have definitely got off the oath bandwagon.
I found out that 4-color non-blue oath is probably the worst oath deck possible.
Yeah, what about mono green oath?
It's probably doing some other shit really well. If you can play mono green oath...
Maybe?
you probably have a couple duds, but you're probably playing natural order too.
Green, red, oath, wildfire.
That's good. That is actually good.
Okay.
The thing about Oath is you only need 2 mana to make it happen. You can just aggressively wildfire and find a second mana source later.
Then you've already killed all their guys.
Who cares? Play 41.
Screw it.
So that kind of does it for today. I felt like half mailbag questions, half stuff that's going on right now. Who knows? We could be back in 2.5 days doing this again with very little new information.
Our packs will have new cards in them, though.
Yes. I will go to dinner. Eck will sit here and update cards.
Woohoo!
Good times will be had by all. Now for the housekeeping. You can still find us every week on mtgcast.com. Good luck to them and their advertising. But you can shortcut this process by subscribing to us on eckamon.blogspot.com.
Also on iTunes.
Where on iTunes would you find us?
Just search the Magic Box.
Search for the Magic Box on iTunes. Totally G-rated.
Yeah.
One of these days we'll actually have some sweet logo information. And while you're there, drop us a line, rate us. It doesn't have to be 5 stars, but that will get you a special Eck acknowledgement. Which reminds us, we're so behind on acknowledging people for donations.
I know.
Next week. Eck's got a laundry list of stuff to do. See that face? We don't like that
I'm
face.
so tired.
Donate to us, please. We've actually started to sculpt together some plans to bring the Cube experience from Cube League to a video, maybe to the stream, maybe an amalgamation of both. This is so new. Eck doesn't even know what I've got going on.
I was going to say, is this going to be something else I have to do?
No, actually, this is stuff you won't have to do.
Woohoo.
You'll only have to post it.
Ah.
I will do the rest of the work.
Okay. I like that part of it.
Who knows? Either way, preliminary talks are coming together to record some cool stuff, make some cool content. But I need deck hands and stuff to be able to do this, and those people have a day rate. Long story short, you can donate to us. The button is in the Twitch page, right there, or it's on the blog page.
Why are you pointing at me?
It's your blog. So please, now more than ever, your donations go further and us being able to do more cool stuff. Let alone sitting here in this swelteringly hot room on a Saturday afternoon when I'd rather be outside.
Subscribe on Twitch. Follow us on Twitter.
We're on the YouTube. We're still all over the place. We're hitting every form of media. Every comment will be found a way to be read. Email us your questions and concerns at draftcube.gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter directly. We answer these things pretty much on the regular.